3 veiled women are killed by Kenyan police after launching an attack on a Mombasa police station. Nigerians feel the pinch from an economic downturn and soaring inflation. And Kanye West's new Yeezy collection draws mixed reviews at New York Fashion Week. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin in Kenya, where 3 veiled women tricked their way into a police station in the coastal city of Mombasa over the weekend, stabbed one officer and set fire to the building with a petrol bomb before being shot dead. A police spokesman said an exploded suicide vest was recovered from one of the attackers. Mombasa County Police Commander Peterson Mailo told reporters that the women were being questioned when one drew a knife and stabbed a police officer and the other threw a petrol bomb at the police officers. 2 bulletproof jackets and an unused petrol bomb were recovered from the dead suspect. The city of Mombasa, with a large Muslim population on the coast of Kenya, has been targeted by Islamist militants in recent years, but women have not been known to carry out such brazen attacks. Now, in South Africa, the political landscape is being transformed. Recently, the opposition party Democratic Alliance beat the African National Congress, ANC, in a vote to govern Johannesburg, the country's economic hub, unseating the ruling party, which has run the municipal council since apartheid ended 22 years ago. Now, the victory gave the Democratic Alliance control of both Johannesburg and Pretoria, the nation's capital, following heavy losses in urban areas by the ruling African National Congress at the August local elections. Now, by taking over the 2 major cities, the DA has reshaped the political landscape in South Africa, where the ANC has ruled and opposed since it ended white minority rule in 1994. Now, for more on the political gains by the opposition, I am joined on the phone by Mmusi Maimane. He's the leader of South Africa's opposition party, Democratic Alliance. Good evening, Mr. Maimane.
Good evening, and good evening to all the listeners.
Yes. Now, first, of course, quite a feat for your party, but just give us a sense what made your party resonate more with the people of Johannesburg than ANC.
Look, we've been working hard to, where we govern, to govern well. So, we were in control of the city of Cape Town, and they were delivering clean audits, no corruption. We've shown the fact that we can grow the economic pie so that more people can find opportunities. These were critical things. But also our message was really anchored on the notion of how do we deal with South Africa that is a non-racial country. And I think that message in an ANC that resorted back to racial polarization, the views that says many more people need to be divided on the basis of race, many South Africans rejected that, and therefore, coupled with the president's own corruption charges and a lack of delivery in these key communities, that made that the message of change resonated.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talk about many South Africans, but the truth is that ANC still has a large following throughout the country. They have won in most of, parts of South Africa. Now, is this more of like a class thing? Your party has been characterized as a party of the young and educated.
Far from. We're very clear about the fact that in communities that we've grown, these are many South Africans who are without work. You can recall South Africa's economy has got 8.9 million South Africans who can't find work. And what we're furthermore saying is that these are young people. So the ANC's own message is to say to people that, look, if you're a clever black, as they use the term to indicate that people who are educated simply can't vote for the ANC, we're changing the narrative. We really are working hard at becoming a party for all South Africans from all corners.
Now, across the continent of Africa, one of the most frustrating things has been that when the opposition is outside, is trying hard to get inside and rule the country, they promise heaven. Once they're in power, once they take over, they disappoint big time. What are you going to do to reassure people that if it comes to that time that your party actually takes the governance of the entire country, things will be different?
Look, we've already started to prove it. One of the luxuries that we have as a political party is that we have been in fact in government. And so where we govern, it's clear. There has been no evidence of corruption. In fact, there have been no corruption allegations against any of our leaders, any of our governments. We take a very strong line against that. Secondly, we're very clear that where we govern, we make we make those places investor-friendly by attracting foreign direct investment and making sure that micro-enterprise can thrive. Along with that, we're really working hard at achieving the idea of addressing historical legacies here in South Africa. You can recall that too many South Africans, particularly those who are black, are still living in very, very poor conditions. So we've got to work hard at ensuring that we address that legacy and make sure more people can find work. So we've proven the fact that where we're in government, things do get better for many more South Africans.
We know that most South Africans still, associate themselves with the ANC. They relate more with it because it's a party of liberation, it's a party of the people. What do you tell people going around the country?
Well, I think it's clear that narrative is changing. The ANC is becoming more and more the party of the elite, in the sense that the more politically you are connected in the ANC, the better your opportunities are, the more you can find work opportunities and tenders, etc., etc. So we're seeing that they are now in the business of defending the elite and no longer the party for the poor. It's a misnomer to even suggest that, because even those who are wealthy and politically connected get the opportunities if they're in the ANC. So we are adamant about bringing the change that says we need a government that when we use the word for all, it is for all South Africans, regardless of where they come from and what background they hold. So it's a lot of work, and that branding is changing even now for the ANC.
Well, Mr. Maimane, we appreciate very much your perspectives. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mmusi Maimane is the leader of South Africa's opposition party, Democratic Alliance. Now, Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of Sacrifice, which takes place at the end of the Hajj. That's the annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca. In some places, the holiday this year is observed on Monday, in others on Tuesday. Now, the holiday marks Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his only son, Ishmael, to God, and God's gift of a ram as a substitute. Muslims honor God's generosity by slaughtering cattle and preparing the meat for a grand holiday feast. Zlatitsa Hoke reports that hard times are forcing some Muslims to modify their traditions.
The cattle markets have been busy in Muslim countries, but just before the holiday, merchants in some countries complained that sales were slow.
It is not a good business. Sometimes we can't afford our family expenses during Eid days. If we sell it now, then we have to sell it very cheap.
But many customers still cannot afford to buy a sacrificial animal. In war-torn Syria, the prices for sheep have skyrocketed.
Last year I could hardly afford it, but now it is very difficult. When I came to ask for the price, I found it very hard. I may cancel the sacrifice.
Nigerian cattle traders say many of their customers now buy an animal together and share the meat.
And instead of a man with a large family buying a ram worth 30,000 naira, he joins hands with his colleagues at work or in the market to buy a bull and get more meat.
Buying meat instead of the whole animal means leaving out the traditional slaughtering ceremony. But as this man in Gabon says, Eid is also about sharing.
If we slit the sheep's throat, we shouldn't keep it for ourselves only. We share with people who can't afford one. You have to give away some of it.
Turkey is taking that obligation seriously and has been sending food, clothing and other supplies to people in Gaza after making a deal with Israel to permit the delivery of humanitarian aid into the blockaded strip. The latest shipment on Sunday contained bicycles.
We are here for distribution of bicycles right now here in Gaza because the Eid al-Adha is coming. We want to make the children happy and we want to show that we are supporting them.
Another tradition that has seen some change this year is the annual pilgrimage to the holy sites of Islam in Saudi Arabia. Thousands of Iranians went to Iraq's holy city of Karbala instead of to Mecca, where hundreds of Iranian pilgrims were crushed in a stampede last year. Zlatitsa Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, forgotten in the desert of South Morocco from the Algerian border, several nomadic families are surviving under very precarious conditions. The combination of worsening climate stresses, border conflict with Algeria and frequent drought has pushed many of them to abandon their pastoral nomadic life. Adeline Belou went to meet the forgotten men and women of the Sahara.
It takes several hours on chaotic tracks to reach the nomadic families of the desert region of Mahamid, located in South Morocco. Over the past years, consequences of the border closing, but also the construction of the dam at Ouarzazate, have profoundly altered the lifestyle of the nomadic families. Because of watering difficulties, breeders have lost 2/3 of their cattle.
People are powerless around here. They simply have no money, nothing at all, and there are no jobs. People who own animals can sell some, but others who don't are left with nothing. We don't want to remain nomads. I hope we will find a solution, a house or something. I would have preferred to build a home in town. It would be much better.
Father of 6, Salem decided to settle a few hundred meters to a well drilled by a foreign NGO several years ago. Besides deplorable living conditions, concern for the needs of his children is his first priority as he looks to the future. With no access to the education system, nomadic families rely on each other.
Last year, we created our own association following the advice of an Italian social worker so we could help each other. I teach children, we're studying earlier, but there is no state in all that. It's just as the nomads. We have no advantages from nomadism. We hope, God willing, to enter the civilization.
With no access to education, the vast majority of nomadic children are forced to acquire livestock farming in order to perpetuate the tradition. But without prospects of a better future, those forgotten of Sahara are hungry for change and integration in society. Back to the days of my parents at a time of real nomadism, it was very exhausting, but they moved constantly. Now we've become more sedentary. I never went to school, never my parents nor I. I really wanted to go to school, but I never found one. Nomads have the lowest literacy rate in the States. In general, they suffer from a lack of education, health, and communication facilities. With no government measure on the way, there is a prevailing sense of injustice among nomadic people. Adeline Bayol for VOA Mohammed.
Well, 15 years have passed since nearly 3,000 lives were lost in the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Today, its survivors, along with family and friends of victims, relive a struggle that has never left them. The sites of the attacks, the message for struggling Americans everywhere was clear, as exemplified by President Barack Obama, who said, "We are forever united." VOA's Ramon Taylor reports from New York.
As the fog cleared from New York's Freedom Tower, Americans paid solemn tribute to the fallen at Ground Zero, the site of the attacks on the Twin Towers.
Evan J. Barron.
One by one, relatives and loved ones of 9/11 victims recited their names. From New York City to a field outside Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, Americans bowed their heads to remember each of the 4 moments of impact. President Obama laid a wreath at the Pentagon and delivered a message of unity.
It is so important today that we reaffirm our character as a nation. People drawn from every corner of the world, every color, every religion, every background, bound by a creed as old as our founding, E pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one.
St. Paul's Chapel in New York is known as the Little Chapel That Stood, just steps from Ground Zero. In the weeks following the attacks, it served as a place of rest and refuge for relief workers. Reverend Dr. William Lupfer says the community lives with the loss every day and continues to pray for reconciliation.
We're not here today, gone tomorrow, and we want everyone to be, to continue to grieve and to remember. Sometimes remembering and grieving means laughing and embracing life even more fully.
For many of the survivors, not a day passes without remembering the horrors they faced and the health repercussions that followed.
NYPD, family, friends, he was always the one to run to help. So I remember my dad as the person who always was there to help everybody.
William Rodriguez was working as a janitor at the World Trade Center when the towers were attacked. Using a master key, he ran to open as many doors as he could before exiting and becoming buried alive.
So they started looking under the rubble, and once I got pulled from under the rubble, hours after, I was in shock. Why? Because I couldn't find any of those buildings.
Today, Rodriguez advocates for survivors, but fears that many who continue to struggle have been left behind.
Everybody was together. The liaison was very strong. The ties with the victims were constant. Then people got tired. People said, okay, it's time to move on, while the victims were still suffering.
Rodriguez hopes that the survivors, like every victim of 9/11, will never be forgotten. Ramon Taylor, VOA News, New York.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Well, coming up, the continent's second largest economy officially enters a recession. Stay with us.
Economy and a crackdown on corruption in Macau's gaming industry is hurting the region's casinos. Macau's gaming market has dropped from $45 billion to $28 billion in 2 years. Asia gaming expert Grant Govertson says gamblers could be choosing different destinations.
How much is these customers going to other places like Japan or Korea, because it's easier to go to Japan and Korea these days.
Even so, the new $4 billion Wynn Palace opened in August 2016. CEO Steve Wynn says he's optimistic about his casino's future, even though China's economy has declined from historic highs.
The amount of revenue, the rate of growth was unprecedented, historic, and in many cases, not just extraordinary, but outrageous.
Today, the Chinese government wants to expand Macau's appeal with more non-gaming entertainment. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton will not be campaigning in the western state of California Monday or Tuesday, as had been planned. She's taking a break after being diagnosed with pneumonia. The diagnosis was not made public until Sunday after she appeared unsteady at a September 11 commemoration ceremony in New York. She left the event abruptly, and a video showed her being helped by several people before she stumbled off a cab and got into a van. The 68-year-old candidate later emerged from her daughter's Chelsea's apartment, where she waved to supporters. Clinton's doctor said later she had become overheated and dehydrated, but was recovering nicely. She was later taken to her home in the nearby town of Chappaqua. The campaign said Clinton was diagnosed with pneumonia Friday after examining her for a prolonged cough. With the U.S. presidential election about 2 months away, the issue of Clinton's health is likely to linger. A big part of that will be her Republican opponent, Donald Trump, who has cast Clinton as lacking the stamina necessary to handle the job. Now, the 70-year-old Trump released a letter from a physician late last year claiming he would be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency. But the doctor has since acknowledged he dashed off the note in 5 minutes while the Trump campaign limousine waited nearby. Well, Americans paused and reflected Sunday, as we reported, as the nation marked the 15th anniversary of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks that left thousands dead and propelled the United States into its longest ever wars. VOA's Michael Bowman reports somber ceremonies were held against the backdrop of a presidential race in which national security is a prominent theme.
From Lower Manhattan to the Pentagon, a day of remembrance and reminders that the fight against terrorism continues.
What we face in the context of the global terrorist movement is a long-term problem associated with social, economic, and political issues across that region in the world, which has created such a widespread radicalization that one group after another has sprung up over the years.
U.S. officials know the threat has evolved.
We are safer when it comes to protecting against another 9/11-style terrorist-directed attack from overseas. We're in a new environment, however, where we have to be prepared against and try to prevent lone wolf-style attacks, the self-radicalized actor.
The administration's critics want a more muscular U.S. posture on the world stage.
We're sitting back waiting for the next attack. We should be on offense.
It's a message Donald Trump delivers at every rally.
We will remember those three very famous words: peace through strength. Nobody's going to mess with us.
But a modicum of restraint is also required, according to Hillary Clinton.
You've heard Donald Trump say he would order our troops to torture. You've heard him say he would order our troops to kill family members of terrorists. You would know that he was advocating illegal actions against our own laws as well as the laws of war.
While a ferocious presidential contest exposes rifts in a bitterly polarized nation, the 9/11 anniversary recalls a time when Americans rallied as one. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Now to West Africa. Nigeria, Africa's second largest economy, is formally in a recession. Citizens are feeling the pain, both from the downturn and soaring inflation, which has reached an 11-year high. Now, Chika Odua has more from Abuja.
Patience Michael is not sure if her children will go back to school this year.
Now that the economy is like this, it's not easy for us to provide many things for our children, like school fees, clothes, feeding, and house rent. It's not easy for us because there is no more game inside the business.
Patience is a market woman. For 7 years, she's been selling local food products in front of her house. But with annual inflation at 17%, it's hard for her to make a profit.
Many things are very costly in the market, so we are not making any gain.
Market women also prepare quick meals for people to buy, but the cost of the ingredients have nearly doubled. Mama Emmanuel, like others, has had to hike her prices to make ends meet. She blames the problems on Nigeria's weak currency, the naira.
Our currency is very, very poor. Being giants of Africa, we don't want what we are seeing in our currency is not what we're supposed to have.
So I can give you 5. Inflation is squeezing customers too. They say they go to the market and leave with very little.
And you expect me to eat like 3 times in a day. I would just eat it like 2 times in a day so that I will minimize, and then the next day I will continue because there's no money. Everything is just so hard. So we don't just know what is just happening.
The recession is the result of several things. The drop in world oil prices, attacks in the south that reduced oil production, and a shortage of foreign currency. It's been more than 20 years since Nigeria's economy was this weak, and no one knows how long the recession will last. Advocacy groups are working overtime to figure out how to pressure the government to take action.
A woman provides a lot of the time for our immediate family. That is because even the man, oftentimes tendencies are there that he already lost his job. It is going to be counterproductive for the country not to create an emergency around the economy, as it were. As a matter of fact, now.
Patience Michael says she will have to wait and see. Maybe next year she'll be able to send her kids back to school. Chika Odua for VOA News in Abuja.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Kanye West kicks off New York Fashion Week with controversy. We'll be right back.
I am Sheka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international calling talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today, we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Haydee Adams-Fitzpatrick. Here's what's trending. Kanye West debuted the 4th season of his Yeezy collection for Adidas on New York's Roosevelt Island. Talk about haute couture. More than 100 models braved the sweltering heat to walk the open-air runway in these, well, let's say simple, loose fleece-hooded looks, white dresses and full zip coats. This left some to wonder whether the anticipated Yeezy Season 4 was worth the time and effort and sweat to attend at the start of a busy week for the fashion industry. The show started several hours late, causing fashionistas to grumble and some models to faint. New York Fashion Week runs until September 15th. IKEA is jumping on the pop-up bandwagon. The Swedish furniture giant is launching a pop-up restaurant in London. And just like its flat-pack furniture, the food is also do-it-yourself. Now, at the Dining Club restaurant, goers can work alongside chefs to prepare simple Scandinavian-themed dishes. Now, you're allowed to bring up to 20 guests who have to help and prepare and taste the food. The experience is free, not the food, but you have to book your brunch, lunch or dinner slot in advance. If you're hoping to learn the secret behind IKEA's popular meatballs, that deal's off the table. IKEA will not be dishing out that recipe anytime soon. And finally, ride-sharing is becoming Uber everything in Berlin. First, there were regular taxis, then came Uber. Now, Alligator Shuttles is hoping to become the next big thing here. It works just like a regular ride-sharing service. You use your smartphone app to order a car. A driver comes to pick you up, and you pay for the distance you've traveled. But with Alligator Shuttles, the trip you book is matched with those of other customers, so you won't be the only passenger. The driver makes a few stops along the way, picking up and dropping off a few other people. The price of 10 cents per kilometer is set, so it doesn't matter how many people the driver picks up, the price remains the same. And that will make for some awkward small talk. That is what is trending today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, makes me think of the super shuttle here to the airport. Anyway, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch our show, Africa 54, on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show. That is Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words.
Does this word mean something good has happened?
Unleashed. The president is sending Secretary of State John Kerry to the Middle East to help build a coalition to defeat the militants who have unleashed a wave of violence that has included attacks on Iraq's Christians and other minority communities, and recently the videotaped killing of American journalist James Foley.
Unleashed means to let something very powerful happen quickly.
It is like taking a leash off a dog and letting it attack someone. In our story, the militants unleashed or set off a wave of violence.
Usually, unleashed does not mean something good.
So, the next time you hear the word unleashed, you will know what this news word means.